Just recently, I met a man named Lester Ruth. Lester actually came to visit me because he's a worship historian, gives you an idea of my age. What he's actually doing is he's researching the contemporary worship movement, working on a book that documents the whole movement. It's really pretty fascinating. As I talked to him, I realized he had a lot to share, his background, his understanding. And so as long as he's in my house talking to me, I thought I'll interview him. And so today I'm going to share with you, there's actually a few different clips that I'm going to share with you over time. But this particular one, he's talking about some differences, a big difference from his perspective between the earlier days, say 30, 40 years ago in contemporary worship compared to now. And so I'm going to let him talk, and then I'm going to come back in and talk about what he said.
One of the biggest surprises as I've been working on this history of contemporary praise and worship is how important the management and structuring of time has become. When I take a look at the earlier forms where the whole this whole way of worship began to take shape and form in the 50s and 60s, 70s, even to the 80s, praise and worship was much more free-flowing. The worship leader had part of their job was to be very attentive to what the Spirit was doing at that moment and how long the Spirit wanted to do it. So you had to start making active choices through discernment about, do I go back? Do I move on to the next song? Do I come back and pull a song that we did earlier in the set? And you had to kind of assess what was happening in the room, the Spirit's work with the people. Now between planning software and time management in projection and just the whole structuring of the services, it seems to me that much of that has been taken away from worship leaders, and it has changed the quality. One of the best interviews that I did was with Carl Tuttle, the original worship leader for John Wimber, the national worship leader. And so I asked Carl, I said, how did you know how to put together your worship set? He said, that was really easy. We didn't. I said, what? He said, we got into the worship space and I prayed and I listened for the Spirit's voice, and whatever the Spirit said to do as the first song, that was the first song that we did. And then he was actively discerning the Spirit's leading for the entire service. Not just Carl Tuttle, but other early worship leaders would have similar sort of stories.
Wow. You may remember that we talked some about this in an earlier video where I talked about the whole idea of spontaneity and that everything that happens spontaneously isn't necessarily from God. But at the same time, I do believe there should be a dimension of that spontaneity in what's going on. And I'm not suggesting that you should take on Carl Tuttle's idea of just going up there and waiting for the Holy Spirit to prompt you right then and there. But at the same time, there's a dimension of things that happen in a service that you cannot plan out ahead of time. People all of a sudden just en masse getting excited about a particular lyric that's going on and God using that and working in that and maybe not just stopping right there but continuing on with that song. I realize that takes some effort on you and the rest of the team to make that happen, but at the same time, it's worth it. I've seen tremendous things happen as a result of having that ability to be at least a little bit spontaneous in what's going on and seeing how people are responding to what's happening there at the moment. So I would just challenge you to think about that, consider that. Are we too rigid in our time schedule and having to do things a certain way and getting to the place where we completely block out what Holy Spirit might want to do in a given service at a particular time? Think about it.
Brought to you by myworshipleadingcoach.com.
Helping you to be more fully equipped as a worship leader.